What's good everyone, it's Smudger here, and today we're going to talk settings, and we're going to go through what I think are the most important settings for Cold War. This won't be including audio, that's in a separate video, I'll link it in the description, and we're just going to jump straight into it because there's no time to waste. It is out and you want to make sure you have those perfect settings so you're not messing around with them. The biggest change in Cold War for console players, because this is going to be primarily console based because I am a console player, is the field of view or FOV. If you don't know what FOV is, it basically means you can see more of the map and the action around you by almost widening your peripheral vision. PC has had it for ages, it's finally on console, and this is what this first tip spaces around, I guess. Now there have been reports of this causing lag, frame rate drop if you put it to the max, which is 120. I've not personally had that issue. My advice would be to put it as high as you can. Put it to 120. If you're seeing that your console can't manage, you are dropping frames, then just drop it down a bit until you find that sweet spot. So for me, 120 works fine, but it might be 110 for you or 100. Just you're going to have a bit of play around with that. Whilst we're on this page, I'm going to remind everyone here to turn off motion blur. Nobody wants that on. It's nasty. It throws off your aim, stops you seeing enemies. Just turn it off. If we flick over, next is the dead zone, and all that really means is how much you move your thumbsticks without it moving on screen. This is to combat stick drift. Ideally you want to keep this as low as possible so you get maximum responsiveness, whilst also ensuring that your stick isn't moving by itself wildly, because that's really going to throw your aim off. So this is going to depend on your controller, how your controller is built, how new it is. It really is dependent on the controller. The chances are you'll know if you've got stick drift because you'll find yourself getting annoyed by it. But you can tweak this by thumbstick. So if your left doesn't drift but your right does, you can change it just so the right's dead zone's a bit higher, which is pretty cool. And let's talk about the rest of the controller settings while we're here. Starting with sensitivity, I think most people know this by now. It is going to be personal preference, but the point is to play around with different sensitivities and find what feels right. It is going to be different for everyone. It might change through the game's life cycle, but I'd highly recommend not just settling on the default sensitivity without trying out others. I think most people probably know this by now, but just in case you don't, there it is. I'd also recommend switching the button layout from default to tactical unless you play claw or with paddles, in which case you probably already know all this and you're not even listening to me. Tactical switches your melee and your crouch button, so crouch is now your right thumbstick, and this is what's important. And this lets you slide cancel easier, even though they nerfed it, but time will tell if they actually nerfed it enough. And the second point of this is it lets you drop shot without taking your thumb off the thumbstick. You can crouch while shooting without taking your thumb off the thumbstick. It means you can still aim while doing all these things rather than having to take your thumb off your right thumbstick to crouch or to go prone like you would on default. And this in theory should increase the number of gunfights you win. I think most people have been playing on it for some time now. I can't really play on default anymore, even though I do play with paddles on the back of my controller. And finally, I do actually flip the triggers around, so L1 and R1 are my aim and shoot, and then L2 and R2 is my grenades. That's just personal preference and comfort. I see more and more people switching to it now. It might be worth looking into it if that's something that you want to have a look at. It really is just personal preference. And with that, I'm going to leave it there. If you want to check out my other tips and tricks videos for Cold War, including how to prestige fast, the best audio settings that I mentioned earlier, I'll leave the links to them in the description. As always, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a like and subscribe for more. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers during Cold War, so come join me on that journey. It's going to be a wild one. I hope you all have a good day, and I'll catch you guys later.